Federal budget cuts by the Trump administration are already impacting programs that feed the hungry in Wisconsin. Two popular and successful federally supported programs paid Wisconsin farmers to grow food for local food pantries. It was a win-win situation for farmers and for hungry people. At least that's the way it was until the programs were canceled. Those are not the only federal hunger programs in danger of being cut or eliminated. So what do these cuts mean to Wisconsin residents, especially at a time when inflation is driving up prices and food pantry usage is up? Let's learn more from Matt King. Matt is the Chief Executive Officer for Hunger Task Force. It is Milwaukee's only free and local food bank, providing food and support to local food pantries at no charge. Matt, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start with some basics. What is Hunger Task Force, and how does it work as a food bank to help our communities?
Yeah, the history of Hunger Task Force goes back 50 years. We actually were founded in Milwaukee in 1974. And originally we were founded by a group of local citizens, church leaders, teachers, and concerned parents who really were focused on the problem of childhood hunger in Milwaukee and bringing meals to kids in schools, because they knew that kids who are hungry wouldn't be able to learn. Kids who weren't able to be successful in school weren't going to be able to thrive and, transcend some of the conditions of poverty that they were living in. So we were really founded as a childhood hunger organization. That remains really our essence as an organization. But over that 50 years, we've expanded our service to the entire population in the entire community. And so that does include a food bank. And we have a food bank that currently serves over 30,000 people every month. And so we have a network of food pantries that we support and make sure that their shelves are stocked with healthy foods, so that anybody who's struggling or falling on hard times has that safety net there to catch them and to get help when they need it.
We're going to talk about the programs I alluded to just a minute ago in just a second. But you have been in this business, Hunger Task Force has, for a long time. How concerned are you about the effects that we're seeing now with these federal cuts to programs that help feed the hungry?
Well, you're right. There's been a number of major events, for our economy, even just going back over the last 15 years through the Great Recession, the pandemic, and certainly we've had to adapt through some of those difficult times previously. I think one of the big challenges right now is the level of uncertainty, for which we're working through. The examples that you gave of the programs that are being cut were done without much warning and have put us in a position where now we have to scramble to get community support to backfill some of those losses. So I think that's one of the more challenging aspects of it right now, because despite these recent cuts to these food purchasing programs, we do have enough inventory to continue to support local food pantries and to make sure that children, families, and seniors do have resources to receive at the food pantries. So it's not as if these cuts mean that we're not going to be able to continue to serve the community. But what it does do is take away some of the variety of food and really healthy foods, including fresh produce, meat, cheese, and milk that we had been planning for the better part of a year. We plan these types of shipments and scheduling well out in advance, and so to have them cut on a short notice really puts us in a bit of a pinch.
You just found out about one of those programs that brings in about $615,000 of produce from farmers and ranchers. into Hunger Task Force that that's not going to be there. What does that look like? What won't be coming in that would have been available to folks if the money were there?
Yeah, so we received notice late last week that several truckloads, and these are semi-truckloads full of food that were scheduled to be delivered to Hunger Task Force between June and September were canceled by the USDA. This is meat primarily, but also milk and cheese. And so a lot of the food pantries in our network are church-based, small community organizations, largely run with the generosity of volunteers giving of their time. And some of these products are expensive foods that a smaller organization doesn't have the funds to be able to just purchase. And so really valuable items for those organizations that they were counting on. And so it's our commitment to them that we will backfill, those resources and make sure that they have the foods for people in need so they can continue to be generous and continue to provide healthy foods.
There's also another program that was cut, and this is from food that's produced directly in Wisconsin, the Local Food Assistance Cooperative Agreement Program. That's just then another hit to this fresh local produce that would be available, but now isn't.
Yeah, this is a great program. It was really a win-win in that, as you said, it created access to healthy, fresh, locally grown foods, but it also specifically supported small family-owned farms in the region. And for a lot of those farms, they had already planned for this growing season under the premise that the program was continuing. They went out as a small business and purchased the supplies for the growing season, which as a farmer, you have to do in advance. There's a lot of planning and before the growing season that goes into play. And so for those small businesses, I think they really felt like they had the rug pulled out from underneath them. So we as an organization have a long history of partnering with and supporting Wisconsin agriculture, Wisconsin growers, producers, cheesemakers as well. And they're an important part of our economy and an important part of our heritage as a state. And so for us, it's important that we honor those commitments to them. And so that's what we're doing is continuing on with that program. Despite it being cut at the federal level.
Right.
Hunger Task Force will continue to support local farmers. It's really just kind of part of our DNA. And honestly, it's just the right thing to do. And so we're going to honor those agreements with them. That same fresh produce is going to be available at food pantries throughout the Wisconsin growing season this year.
You just have to find the money to be able to make that happen.
That's true. We actually have had a group of donors that have already stepped up and answered that call. We're compelled, to step up and help out. And so we're really confident that that program is essentially just taking a new shape and more of a local program. But I mean, the hope is that at the federal level, they will recognize the value and importance of the program and reinstate it. And maybe that means that they need to give it a new name. That's not really important to us. What's important, is the people in need who are being helped by it and the businesses who are counting on it.
One thing that we do want to make sure is that people understand that there are still programs that you have that haven't been impacted by this funding.
Yeah, it's a good point. This these cancellations of food definitely affect some of the variety that we're able to provide. But nonetheless, we have a robust inventory at the food bank that is going to allow the shelves of local food pantries to be stocked. And so if people are in need of help, they can go to hungertaskforce.org. We have a variety of resources there, including mapping where you can find resources that are close to you. But we have other programs as well. We have a mobile market, which is essentially a grocery store on wheels. This is a partnership with Piggly Wiggly, Anthem, and the Charles Antetokounmpo Family Foundation, as well as GE Healthcare, that brings discounted groceries, exclusively healthy foods into neighborhoods in our community that would be considered food deserts, areas that have high poverty and limited access to markets, and in a lot of cases, limited access to transportation because there's a high number of older adults living there.
How can people help? If people see this and they want to make sure, not knowing what is on the horizon and if other cuts are going to be coming to programs that help to stop hunger, what can people do to help?
Well, we're grateful, for 50 years of strong community support, and that's what allows us to be able to, ride some of these waves that we're experiencing and still be in a strong position to be able to serve. If people want to help, they can go to hungertaskforce.org. We know that the high cost of living, has put a strain on a lot of families' budgets. In particular, the high cost of housing, which has gone up more than 30% over the last 5 years. That's the number one thing that we hear from people looking for help, is that rent and the high cost of living have really put them in a position to have to keep a roof over their child's head and then look for some assistance. So if people need help or want to help, they can go to hungertaskforce.org and either find food resources or they can make a donation.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Matt.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you shining a light on this.
Well, we appreciate you all and thank you for the work that Hunger Task Force does every day. We'll be right back.